And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. We're waiting for our great friend Dave Petzo to join us from the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. And do want to thank everybody who showed up at our luncheon, a VIP luncheon on Friday we had celebrating the 90 years of KIDO Talk Radio. And you may or may not know that this radio station, Idaho's first radio station, and I had a chance to meet some great broadcasting legends that still listen to this great radio station today. And we want to thank Art Gregory and the History of the Idaho Broadcasting Foundation for the Foundation for the History of Idaho Broadcasting for asking us to be a part of this. And can't wait to see that facility open up in Nampa. Thanks to our friends David Ferdinand and Joe Bell and everybody else with the foundation for making that happen. And really, you get a sense of history when you're thinking about this radio station, because this was the first radio station in Idaho. It was the first FM radio station, and then it was the first television station, all coming from this station here that was created by kids from Boise High School. Now, you had other radio stations that were created by corporations or Westinghouse or what have you. This radio station was created by kids from Boise High School. So we want to thank everybody who showed up. It was a wonderful event, and we look forward to celebrating 90 years beginning now. So thank you for continuing that tradition, because remember, without AM radio and now FM radio, there would be no Facebook, Twitter, or anything else. And really, all those platforms do is just imitate what we've been doing here for years. And speaking of being here for years, Dave Petzo joining us now, fresh off his jaunt to the West Coast. He returns to the mountain. Good to have you back.
It's good to be back, Kevin. How are you today?
You know, it takes a lot of energy, I think. You go to Reno, you come back, and it's like 2 or 3 days. But you Western people, you love to do this. I mean,
Yeah.
a 6-8 hour drive is nothing.
It's fun. It's totally fun. You bet.
Apparently. So you were in Reno. Any chance you were meeting with anybody from Silicon Valley? Maybe you were meeting halfway.
Yeah, Musk, he's got a big plant there.
I know you're a fan of Musk as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's amazing what some of these folks are getting away with. Honestly, Kevin, I think we're getting people are waking up to the idea that people actually have to have real financials, can't say and do whatever they want, meaning, Tesla. And also, we're seeing some real pushback as far as, if you will, privacy and things like that, selling data. I mean, Facebook promised, I think it was 2012, they got in trouble, said they'd get better and didn't. So I think there's coming. I'm hopeful that we're going to see some more pressure coming from D.C. This has really gotten to be pretty bad.
Now, wait a minute. You're advocating for the government to do something here. Now, I remember the government doesn't do anything well.
They don't do anything well. They do not. I don't want them to do anything. You're right. But we do need them for regulations, and especially when these companies are stealing data and selling it. It's just it's a bad deal. And also, I think the companies, as they get big, when you're taking money from one area and destroying businesses in another, that's the definition of antitrust. And so I'm happy to hear rumblings that they're looking at Amazon, which makes a lot of money in cloud computing, and then does a lot of money losing over in other areas.
One of my favorite things is the Sherman Antitrust Act, but let's face it, Dave Petzo, that hasn't been used in years.
Yep.
We've allowed, as you would say, these beautiful, great American...
The great corporations of the world, yes.
To quote Dave Petzo, the great corporations of the world, maybe to get too big. Now, again, we listen to your show from 8 to 10 on Saturday. We go back and forth with you on this. So where do you stand? On one hand, you speak glowingly of the great corporations.
Yes.
But now, me, I'm always, I've got my tinfoil hat on, as you know, and wondering about when does the government go after them for being too big or being a monopoly?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very fair question. We saw at times where we see what ends up being very important breakups, like breaking up Ma Bell, turned out to be technologically an incredible freeing moment. I mean, think about what we used to do is to wait till 11 o'clock at night so you could call for a couple of minutes, which would actually be more like, an entire hour's worth of salary,
Right.
for people back then. It was pretty crazy. And now you make long-distance phone calls for free. It's pretty amazing. So some of these things are very important. Deregulating the airline industry was huge. So getting government out of those types of businesses and regulatory, it really can help. Now, on the other hand, if you have companies that are too big, as in the old days, but way back, where you had oil companies like Standard Oil that was just too big and very anti-competitive, could set prices and did. Then we did need to do something about it and break it up, and they did, and created a very, very competitive oil industry. So that's when they should step in, Kevin, when it is not competitive and we have no ability for new people to come in. And I think that's kind of where we are with Google, Facebook. It's tough, and that's why you might need some new regulations there. They certainly can't be selling our private data.
But you could argue that we have that in the oil business. I mean, I can't go in and start Kevin Miller Oil Company. I mean,
why not?
Because of the collusion between the big corporations and everything else. I mean, there's four oil companies that control not only this country, but the world supply of oil and energy and such.
Well, there's a few more than that, but still, I understand your point.
You're great corporations, but I mean, they're going to collude. And one of our best movies ever, I think it's the only gift that I've given you is the Tucker movie about Preston Tucker and what they did to him.
Now, you've done many great things, Kevin. That's only one of them.
Yeah.
That's only one of them. That was a very great one, yes. And that was a great story. And you're right. No, look, people do not want competition. People are corporations. So pretending that we now create a corporation and it's not run by human beings that are inherently monsters is wrong. I mean, they are, and they're going to do lots of wrong things, and they certainly did with Tucker. That's a great example of that, of trying to tamp down any competition. That's part of business, and that's why regulations do exist. So you can't illegally stop people from getting into competition with you. But Kevin, yes, Kevin Miller, the oil tycoon. I can see it now, and I'm ready to find some financial backing for you, buddy.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, Dave Petzo joining us here, the Petzo Center on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's talk a little local issues.
Yeah.
And you like to go out and snowshoe and cross country ski and paraglide and all that stuff.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm a little afraid of heights. I don't think that's
little literary license here this morning. Little theater of the mind. So we have Tamarack being purchased, and everybody's saying, "Hey, it's going to turn around." The folks at Channel 7 interviewed the new owner, I think it was Mark Johnson, and said, look, we're going to start a little small. This company has had, for a few years, we've had a summer festival up there. And to me, Tamarack has always been challenged. But as someone who knows this industry, this lifestyle, and has covered the story from the very beginning, your thoughts?
Yeah, Tamarack is such a bad location. It's very difficult to get people in and out of there, as you well know, Kevin, from the festivals. It's tucked back in there. It's not and that road north-south is not, it's not wide. It's not great. So it's a tough location, and we saw that the first go-around.
Hold on. Let me just say this, because I'm a sissy.
Yeah.
I went there once with my wife, and I didn't go to a festival. I just went there to look at it.
Yeah.
And that dirt road going in and out of there, and maybe it's paved. I don't know.
It's paved.
Felt like dirt to me. I was scared, but that doesn't take much. And 2 lanes here and there, and I'm going, this is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But as you've pointed out, the infrastructure to get there.
Yep. Very difficult. And that's part of the problem for all ski resorts, all beautiful areas like that. But yes, I went up there and did their zip lining and all that stuff. It was a birthday present. It was absolutely fantastic.
See, I told you, paragliding, zip gliding, the same thing.
Close.
Yeah.
And so they are making it an all season, little resort area, but it's difficult to get to, Kevin. This is going to be a tough go again. We saw it the first time around. I am thrilled because maybe Idaho's got enough population now. Maybe they've got a price. They're going to start out small enough. I don't know. But if they've got, but where they're sitting at, this is going to be a tough deal. As you know, it's tucked back in there. and they don't have a golf course anymore. All of those things are difficult issues to overcome, but I'm really happy about it and encouraged that somebody sees some light at the end of the tunnel and is willing to put their money up.
Well, you go there, and it's, most of it's all these buildings that are partially built.
Yeah, they're empty. They're just all sitting there. It is you walk in there, it's like a cloud. I mean, it's just like you walked into a ghost town, and it's not encouraging. It is a beautiful little setting, and if they can get some activity up and going, it would be very exciting to get that going, because it is a beautiful little village.
More on Tamarack, more from Dave Petzo coming up, but I have a review from our interview on Saturday morning.
Oh,
a couple
boy.
Reviews.
Yeah.
And if people missed it, this was where you interviewed me, and you grilled me for an hour.
I did.
Yes.
Are you okay? Are you recovered now?
I'm still recovering from it, from this open and honest interview that we had. First of all, you made my parents cry. I hope you're happy about that.
I am. I'm
Yes.
very happy about that. That's good.
They were crying from New Hampshire. So, and Mrs. Miller, not to be associated with my mom, she wants to know, since she was working, keeping the wheels of the economy, and somebody in the Miller house actually doing something, how can she hear that interview?
She can hear that we will, as soon as Ray downloads that, we upload it onto our website, so we should have that later today or tomorrow.
Petzo Financial?
PetzoFinancial.com.
And that's anybody who wants to.
Anybody who wants to do it, we've got all the archived and articles, all kinds of stuff in there. And if you have some more feedback, then that's also where you would leave that feedback.
Right.
Those
Grill him again,
unsolicited-
Dave. Grill him again.
That's it. But that's exactly where I go to PetzoFinancial.com and download it. And I actually, as I called in on Friday morning and said, look, I thought it was, how you don't know because we didn't listen to it.
Right.
You don't know how it is. But I had a really good feeling about it when we were done.
Yes, it made me cry, too.
It did.
I listened to it.
Did you listen to it?
How did he get this out of me? Yes.
Good.
More coming up next with Dave Petzo, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day, Kevin Miller with Dave Petzo. Boy, it's been a rough time for your beloved stocks.
Yeah, best week since 2011.
Well, but what about the month?
Yeah. The month of October, not good.
I read somewhere that this whole year has been wiped out. All the gains have been wiped out. Is that true?
It's true. We're break even for the year. Yes.
I don't know if that's good news.
Well, it's not exactly Armageddon. It's okay. We've had quite a run. This is the longest running time-wise, not the steepest bull market, but the longest running bull market in history. So we'll have corrections, and Kevin will continue to do so. But it is interesting how everybody gets so negative, right? And then bam, when it's all going to be so terrible, you got to be careful. Next year's going to be bad, and so on and so forth. And you get all of the Wall Street folks, the J.P. Morgans and all that. Oh, this is just a sugar high, and next year's going to be bad. When everybody's all uniform like that, you have weeks like this where you go up 5% in a week, and that's quite a nice run. And I was looking good for today as well because of the tariff situation easing up over the weekend.
One issue that has gotten the president very upset is GM last week cutting 15% of its workforce. Your thoughts, your reaction?
Yeah, obviously for the president's jobs and bringing more manufacturing to the country, it's a blow. But I got to say, Kevin, these automobile manufacturers, particularly in the Detroit area, Michigan, with all the unions, they're dead. They're walking dead. They're dinosaurs. This is General Motors, second restructuring. They were bailed out, or they would be gone. They were bailed out by the government, and the unions were, and they still can't figure out a way to move forward. And in fact, the only thing that they were trying to move forward on was an electric car, and now they've pulled that production. So apparently we can only make money on ginormous pickup trucks, and that's it. Apparently they can't figure out how to make money anywhere else.
There's a fascinating book, and I think I've threatened to get it to you several times. It's called The End of Detroit. And it really shows how the Japanese, after World War II, just recreated their automobile industry and how they took a look at the United States and decided to put a plant in Ohio, then Kentucky, in the southern part of the United States, but isn't really and you alluded to this earlier, the legacy costs that are really destroying Ford, GM, and Chrysler, or Fiat Chrysler, whatever you want to call them.
They are. That is killing them. And plus, when you have that kind of cost structure built in, you can't really, and also all the rules that come with it. You can't lay people off. We can't shift them. We can't close one plant that is inefficient or not, working anymore, and then build another one somewhere else, expand a line that is. You can't make the changes that you have to make, so you are the walking dead. There's no way in this world of super competitive companies that you can turn right around and just kind of do business like a government does. They don't. And that's where they've gotten with all these legacy costs, all these legacy issues, where unions are trying to run them and not allowing them to, if you will, make the changes they need to make. So that kind of legacy cost is burying these companies. It's no different than government. All across the country, we are seeing municipality, one after the other, that is really struggling. Think about Chicago and all these others. They're having a difficult time. And they can't build the infrastructure because they've got such huge legacy costs with $100,000 a year pensions.
I had a chance to talk to one of your good friends recently, Dr. Tommy Ahlquist. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Ahlquist and I, we were speaking with the mayors of Caldwell, Meridian, and Nampa.
Okay.
The big three.
The big three.
The big three. And we were talking about impact fees, and we were discussing, increasing impact fees. Now, for a new building that his new company, BVA, is building, I think they're going to have to pay $120,000 for impact fees just to get this building built. Nampa has decided that they're going to raise impact fees just to deal with these things. And we've gone on this program for many, many years. Is there any other alternative to this, considering that Ada County shot down the fee increase proposed by ACHD? Of course, I think a big issue they had with that was that the trucks 8,000 pounds and over were exempt.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So what do you see if someone said to you, Dave Petzo, what's the solution? Is there anything else besides increasing impact fees that you can think of?
I don't. That's a great question. I'm not sure that I've thought about another avenue, because the reality is that's the way it's always been done. But on top of that, it's a way that makes sense to most everybody. It certainly does to my brain. Where you have something that is going to cause an economic impact to an area, why wouldn't you have a fee to just directly assessed from that? So I'm not sure there's bound to be other ways, but are they the right other ways? For example, if I'm not the builder or have an impact, why should I be paying for it? So it's something that I think is the way that we've done it, and I don't know that there is another way.
Dave Petzo returning with us here, KIDO Talk Radio. So, we everybody uses the roads. You can have, I would assume that you have many estates, probably a couple homes in Switzerland or what have you, but you still have to use the public roads.
No, I have a helicopter pilot.
Right, exactly. Exactly, Petzo 1.
Right.
But you take a look at just and Mayor Kling said, look, it's a good problem to have, but everybody moving in, it's congestion, the roads are getting torn up. Where do we go to get that money? It's going to continue to be a challenge. Is that something that the state government can do anything about?
No, not really. The government, we've tried a lot of different things, and I'm anxious to see as time goes by what Governor Little is going to be, trying to do along the transportation front. I know it was a big thing for Butch, but he never got a lot done. It didn't. There was a few things, Garvey bonds, all those things. But
he did raise the gas tax,
and that's not very popular, but very necessary. And you're not going to hear me say that very often, but I think when we have something directly with transportation, but
you agree being a tax and spender, you and the governor.
Yeah. A bigger government, the better. Yeah, and. But one thing that I think we have to try to do, and that's through the licensing fees. I think that cars that are licensed should have the fees, not necessarily per mile on gasoline, because that's not right. You have the same people using the road next to you that have a Prius. Well, that's not reasonable at all.
And that's funny because the governor, and we used to have this quote where he said it was unfair that he's got his F-150 and he's paying for all this, and then he's got the Prius. Actually, those were his exact words.
Yep.
maybe got the idea from you.
Or vice versa.
Right.
I don't know.
You two operate so together. But you take a look at this, and many people criticize the state of Montana or even California because it costs so much to register a vehicle.
Yeah, and I think that's the only reasonable approach. I mean, it's not like these cars are built for free or without some kind of economic or ecological impact.
Right.
Environmental. They all are. And batteries are difficult to, I mean, if we're talking about, no, we just want to get rid of fossil fuel, that's one thing, but you're not getting rid of it by pumping up your car with electricity. You're still using the energy grid, so to speak.
But the Prius doesn't beat the roads down like a big 350 or a semi-truck.
Well, that's...
My little Camry
yeah.
or my little Toyota Forester doesn't really damage the roads at all. I think they help the roads.
Well, that's true, but they help them?
Yeah.
Really? Pray tell.
I don't really have any facts. I just make statements around here.
Okay. Well, it's perfect for liberal news then.
Right, exactly.
Just make it up.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. But anyway, you still are using the roads, and they have to be widened for you and your cars because you and 100,000 other people are driving around. So all of that is an impact, and it takes money. And if you're not paying, if we want to pay for it in a gas tax, then only people who use gasoline. And do you use gas, Kevin?
I do.
That's correct. I do too. And I don't have a big tank for a car either, so I don't damage the roads. I also help the roads too. Somehow, I'm not sure, but I'm going to get on your...
Are you going to join me in my...
I'm going to join you.
Well, let me just finish, though. Are you going to join me in my anti-truck crusade? Because, you're in your car, got a nice sedan, and then these big trucks all over the place.
Yep.
It's almost like you're in a canyon.
I know. Well, it's true. But I have some good friends, and I just don't want to get beat up after the program. They have big trucks.
Finally, as someone who loves America, is part of America, your thoughts on President Bush?
Oh, it's one of the last, right, of the greats from the Great Generation, right? World War II hero. It's amazing. If you haven't had a chance to look at his history, he's really an amazing guy. I mean, a Renaissance man. He's done everything, and I just don't think he was as good a president as I wished he would have been. He certainly had a great mentor in Reagan, and I can't believe he ended up losing to Bill Clinton. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. He was a very connected. He really had done everything. He's probably the most qualified person to be president of the United States. I know he had to have been. Director of CIA, knew everybody around the world.
Right.
He was the guy. He was the guy, and at the same time, he was a humble, kind person, great family guy, and just the kind of guy that you wish was your dad, kind of thing, right? Super guy. But that's the way I think of George Bush, and always will.
Dave Petzo, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Kevin, and thanks for joining me for Saturday.
And if Petzo Financial, that'll be up there this morning.
PetzoFinancial.com. You betcha.
All right. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And remembering the great President Bush, Kevin Miller in the morning, taking your calls. Thank you, Ray Amai, for that outstanding tribute. Pete in Mountain Home, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Kevin, this is a little off topic other than the weather report on Saturday said we might have an inch or two of snow, and I went out Sunday morning to 12 inches measured in my front yard.
That was in Mountain Home, huh?
Mountain Home, yes, 12 inches. And having dealt with clearing that off of the driveway and the sidewalks, I would like to say I've gone from being a global warming denier to a global warming advocate. I want global warming. Let's all start burning more coal and oil. Let's warm the earth up and stop this stuff, because we're heading to a little ice age here, Kevin.
Oh,
all you had to do was look at the trees in the front yard here, and you knew that global cooling is a lot worse than global warming.
I see.
How much did you guys get over there in the lowlands?
Maybe a couple inches, if that.
Oh, man.
It was wet snow, though.
Yeah, ours is pretty wet heavy here, but there was, I took a tape measure, 12 inches in the front yard.
Oof.
So those of you in the lowlands there.
This is compelling stuff, the weather report. We need to call Larry.
It is, yeah. I just wanted to say that those of you in the lowlands who were a little put out by it should be glad that you have some global warming there.
I see. Anything else you'd like to share your
that
thoughts
was
on?
it. I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Now, what about your thoughts on President Bush?
I thought he was the summary of one of your earlier callers. He was a Renaissance man, a World War II veteran, did everything pretty much. And, it's interesting that where he, I think what really killed him with the Bill Clinton election was the tax thing.
Well,
When a president stands up there and says, I will not do this, and then turns around and does it,
well, unfortunately, what happened to President Bush was that he made that pledge, and then the libs go, like most libs, hey, Bush, the economy's going down. We got to do this. We'll be part of the team.
Oh, yeah.
Well, are you going to use this against me? No, we're not going to use it against you. And,
yeah.
And here's the other one. They so hated President Bush that the Democrats controlled both houses at the time. They kept sending things up for Bush to veto. They would, so he was a do-nothing president at the end, and that's what they called him, and it was an orchestrated strategy. And look, when he ran for re-elect, it took Pat Buchanan to almost beat him in New Hampshire to get him going. He just didn't seem motivated to run for re-election. Then you look at Ross Perot jumping in, and you think to yourself, and then Perot jumped out. Bush then would have beat Clinton. Let's face it, if Perot doesn't come in, Bob Dole is president. If Perot doesn't come in, Bush wins a second term.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else, too, on that. You look at the way the media and the Democrats are all, like, slobbering over how wonderful a man he was compared to the way they treated him. And it's basically what they're doing is they're going, oh, he worked with everyone. He went across the aisle. He was bipartisan. He was courteous. He was yada, yada. And you can kind of hear him going like, and Trump isn't like that. See, look at Trump.
Well, of course, and
it's
Chuck
using
Todd,
him
right?
to attack Trump.
Well, and that's what they do. Chuck Todd and the other liberals. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah, that's that. And I think one of your earlier callers is right. We have to, the Republicans, the GOP as a party has to realize this is not a political contest. We are at war with people who want to turn America into Venezuela. They want a socialist dictatorship with them in charge.
Well, and they almost got there under Obama.
He did his absolute best, didn't he?
He did. Pete, thank you for the call.
Thank you, sir. Catch you later.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Over the Weekend Review Roundtable, George Stephanopoulos had a chance to go one-on-one with Roger Stone, who we've had on the show several times on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And this is about WikiLeaks, this is about Jerome Corsi, and this is about Julian Assange. Let's take a listen.
Never spoke with Julian Assange, never contacted WikiLeaks, never spoke about any of that to President Trump?
That is absolutely correct. I turned over one direct message to the House Intelligence Committee between the flack for WikiLeaks and I. She essentially brushed me off. That immediately leaked to Atlantic Magazine, who then edited the context and published it. Now, I had no contact with Assange. Assange himself has said, while Roger Stone is a brilliant spin master, we've had no communication with him whatsoever.
And if Robert Mueller develops evidence, says that he can show that you did talk to WikiLeaks, did communicate with WikiLeaks, and then did communicate with President Trump?
That's all speculation, George. There is no such evidence. And in fact, going back to the email, I think those have been mischaracterized. Saying that these dumps are coming turns out to be completely incorrect. They don't come in early August as predicted by Mr. Corsi. And there's no reference in that email to John Podesta's emails either. It simply says Podesta will be exposed to the American people, whatever that means. It's not as if those things had not been widely published in early August.
Have you had any contact with Robert Mueller or his prosecutors?
We have not.
None at all?
That's correct.
Does that suggest to you that you actually are a target? Usually they speak with the witnesses first.
Well, it suggests nothing at all. Again, where is the crime? I engaged in politics. My purpose was to take a tip, which I thought to be solid, and then after that to follow the WikiLeaks Twitter feed and set a Google News alert for Julian Assange and use Twitter to hype as much voter and media attention to the disclosures when they came as politics.
Well, there you have it. Roger Stone laying the smackdown there at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, we're going to take a little break. By the way, we do want your thoughts on President Bush. Was he a great man? I'll give you mine at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But coming up next, you've heard about arming kids on campus, whether or not kids should be able to carry guns, students to protect themselves during a campus shooting. Coming up next, we'll tell you, and this is no joke, one university that is arming students and arming the faculty with hockey pucks. That's right, hockey pucks in case there's a shooting. We'll explain next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Yeah, I did work for his son, and I worked for Lloyd Benson, who beat him in 1970 when he ran for the Senate race, and then Lloyd Benson lost in 1988 as vice president in Texas in that time. I think that's the common word you hear in this. It's just decency. He was a decent person. He was a good person. He was a kind person in this. And to me, he's almost like the Forrest Gump of the last 50 years of the 20th century, because he's almost at every single moment of change in the country. The Soviet Union, World War II, the CIA, the UN, the wars, his son, which he had a tremendous impact on. But one thing I'd like to say is, I think often in these times when we have these deaths, we're way too quick to canonize these people. George Herbert Walker Bush was a great man. He did great things, but he also had flaws. He was a human being. He made mistakes, and he was humble enough to acknowledge those mistakes. There was a series of things along the way you can point, sometimes in his political campaigns. George Bush was a good man, but he was also somebody that used brass knuckles in a political campaign. He was the one that did the Willie Horton ad. He was the one that did certain things in political campaigns. There's questions about him on Iran-Contra. He's a good man, but I think it's a lesson to learn is let's not canonize these people. Let's make them human beings.
Or define them by any one incident.
And let's make them human beings.
You know, and Matthew Dowd is a Republican. Well, that shows you what type of Republican that he is. If he worked for Lloyd Benson, a liberal senator from Texas that was run from office. Good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Well, just remembering President Bush and honoring him. See, I disagree. I think that we should honor these folks for their commitment, them being an example. Look, we can go back and talk about Iran-Contra and all these things, but Bush believed in America, a war hero. Married for, 73, 74 years? An example. Look at the political dynasty of his family. Now, was he the most conservative? Probably not. But I love how Matthew Dowd, got to get that shot in on him. How about all those people that did their very best to derail Bush's presidency and legacy? And remember back in the day, and kids, if you don't know this, right before the 92 election or the 88 election, there was this crazy story that President Bush got on an SR-71 super secret spy plane and flew somewhere to negotiate secretly with a superpower that he was having affairs. All the slime that the liberals levied against this man. The showdown with Dan Rather. Remember that? We'll share that with you next. First, John in Idaho City with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Kevin. Long-time caller, first-time listener. Or, excuse me, let's reverse that. I wanted to comment on your take on President Bush, his passing away. And, of course, God rest his soul. But there were two things that I understand what Tom Lenz was talking about with regard to world order participation, encouragement, or so it seemed at times. But there's one thing that did upset me truly about the senior President Bush, and that was he ran a campaign about the 1,000 points of light and a kinder, gentler nation. And to me, as coming on the heels of Reagan stepping down, that smacked of a put down, as though Reagan were a knuckle-dragging, bomb-throwing warmonger. And I deeply resented that, and I know that a lot of Reaganites resented that as well. The second thing that a lot of people overlook, and I'd have to say overall his record is definitely was a great American, but there were some problems, some footnotes here. Here's one of them. The Sandia Labs and the Livermore Defense Labs. I know people that worked there that were very upset when he unilaterally retired the neutron bomb. That was a huge advantage. There would be nothing like what's going on now in Ukraine taking place. If we had that neutron bomb, nobody would dare cross that red line in the sand. And apart from that, I'd say he's a good American, but Tom Munz did have some points to make, and I have to concur.
Okay, John, thank you for listening. Don't be a stranger anymore.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Take care.
Okay, take care. Let's go to Max in Garden City on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, Kevin. I think I just want us to remember it's just like with McCain and now with George Herbert Walker Bush. Just because they're dead, we do not need to beatify them. He was probably a great family man, but an extremely flawed president. Let's not speak ill of him, but let's not beatify the guy. We did the same thing with John McCain. Reality check. That's all I have to say. Please, Kevin, get off the bandwagon. Try to be more objective.
Wow.
He was not a great American. Doesn't qualify.
Wait a minute. He wasn't a great American. He was the
president.
president.
He doesn't stand alongside Ronald Reagan.
He was Reagan's running mate.
Yeah, he was Reagan's do-boy. He cut the ribbons and kissed the babies. Yeah. And he lost to Bill Clinton because he was a crappy president.
Oof.
Come on. You are worshiping at the man's feet because he's dead. If he wasn't dead, your opinion would be very different. You know it. So do I, buddy.
But he is dead.
What?
He is dead.
Okay, so he is. But come on.
Can't we celebrate his accomplishments? I mean, he ran for re-election, he lost. That doesn't make him a bad person, does it?
His death suddenly makes him such a great American. I didn't hear you saying that before he was dead. What changed? He just died. What changed?
Well, I was a Buchanan guy, so.
Well,
I still am.
Take care, good buddy. I was a Ross Perot man myself. I'm enjoying the show. We agree to disagree. Let's just not do this John McCain, George Herbert Walker W. Bush thing. That's all.
Duly noted, Brother Max. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Okay.
And Kevin Miller here from CNN. They're hoping it will never happen, but if a shooter shows up on campus, students and professors at the University of Michigan may be throwing hockey pucks. Now, we're not talking about arming kids with weapons or anything else. This is a true story. Quote, they may have enough mass to cause injury, small enough to be thrown, portable, and they're not considered a weapon, according to, I'm saying this with a straight face, Oakland University Police Chief Mark Golden. Apparently, police and faculty at the school in suburban Detroit came up with the idea after a presentation on emergency preparedness. Oakland University already practices the run, hide, fight strategy, but Gordon said one question that came up with students and professors is, what should they fight with? Maybe it should be a badminton panel. Maybe it should be a paddle from a ping pong stick. Maybe it should be something else. What they needed was a weapon. So the police chief, after hearing all kinds of suggestions, including chairs, backpacks, staplers, boy, that's going to stop a shooter, a stapler. Anything that has weight and would cause injury if they were thrown at it. Having some sort of defense in a shooter situation, Gordon said, would dramatically increase survival. Okay. How about a firearm? They also said that hockey pucks should only be used as a last resort. This is from Thomas DeSania, president of Oakland University's chapter of the American Association of University Professors. So let's not arm the kids. Let's not do anything else. Let's buy over 2,500 hockey pucks to give to students to protect themselves from an active shooter. Another reason to thank the good Lord we live in Idaho. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning.